Vice Principal.
Good evening. An opportunity which we are availing and our students are waiting. Before wasting on any of the time, I would request students to start off from here. And thank you for giving us that time.
And Vandana, I hope you can recognize Pratul sir. Sir, come in.
Come, Pratul.
Of course. You know, he's also saved your 1995 letter that you had written to him. He still preserved it and he showed it to me yesterday itself. We are all really proud of you.
We are very proud.
We are very proud.
Proud of you.
The whole school. And
very nice to see you all.
I'll hand you over to the students. And you know, your colleague has been called by Times of India as Mars Velas Mohan. I think we would also like to call you Wonderful Vandana. Thank you so much. I'm handing you over to the students who are super excited to ask you few questions.
Okay, great.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Vishal.
Good evening.
My question to you is, how did you get interested in robotics and space sciences?
Yeah, even when I was in India, I was very interested in space. I read a lot of books, anything I could find on space. We didn't have robotics back then. Nowadays, you can do robotics in school. But when I came to the US, I did, my thesis work for Masters in Artificial Intelligence. And then I took a class at Carnegie Mellon in robotics. And what's really nice about robotics is you learn something, you put it on a robot, and you have to make it do something in the real world. You can't simplify the problem. The robot either achieves the goal or it doesn't, and Mars is kind of a magnified version of that. And I really liked that, hardware interaction with the theory you learn. And space was always something I, loved doing. And robotics for space is perfect because it's so much harder to sense humans. They need oxygen, they need water, whereas robots can explore really far. So that's how I got interested, and I still, so excited about it. It's a field where there's so much happening that you can continue to do new things. The person who started the Google Self-Drug project, right? That was my professor at Google, and then my classmates are running it. So it's a field where there's so much happening at the same time that I feel there's a lot of potential in the future.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Chetna, and I would like to know, in your college life, was there a teacher who inspired you or motivated you to fulfill your dreams?
I'm Chetna. Yes, actually, I would say that I was very fortunate to have a lot of teachers, and actually I had really great teachers at April's Golden Jubilee. Of course we saw Colonel Sir, who was like really great, would motivate and inspire, and actually also believe in you, right? They believe in you to do something beyond what you think is possible, and then you even achieve that. I had a really great biology teacher, Miss Tomar, and then I had Miss Sarkar. I had a really great English teacher, Miss Ratnakaran, and Batra Sir, our principal, was really great. And, all of those teachers really inspired me to sort of do more. And I think what I really like about the school, and I have such good memories, is that it's a close-knit small school, and you felt very close to the students and the teachers there.
Good evening, ma'am. I am Pranjal. Ma'am, I'd like to know, how does one prepare for NASA, and how do we get entry into it?
Hello, you broke up there just a little bit, so I couldn't hear your question really.
Ma'am, I said, how does one prepare for NASA, and how do we get entry into it?
Yeah. So, NASA, what's interesting is there's so many different things you could do. Every engineering field. If you watch the Perseverance landing, you need material specialists, things like the heat shield. You need, specialists in guidance navigation and aerodynamics. And then there are folks like me who's in robotics and various different fields of engineering. But you also actually need geologists. You need people who do astrobiology. So pretty much any fields you can pick, there are pathways to work with NASA. If you pick more of like the geology or biosciences or the fields, One, of course, it's important to know the fundamentals really well. There, a lot of the instruments that we have on our rovers are proposed by professors at universities all over the world, actually. Some are in Spain and France, a lot of them in the United States. Students who work with them get to work on these missions, and by working on that, you are introduced to these projects and develop the experience so that when you graduate, you already are applicable to that because you have so much background. Also, if you're working on other research work, you can apply it to problems that NASA is going to have in the future. And that way, once they need people who are thinking about the future, and you're more applicable. So, it's really helpful to apply, know the fundamentals, but to apply them to something that's relevant to space.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Larib Salam. Ma'am, as we know, mission Perseverance is in progress. Till now, what all data we have retrieved and what are the further objectives?
Yes, so Perseverance is, today is, I'm looking at my watch, today is just like Sol 6, right? So we call a Martian day of Sol. Very new mission. So we just, we're on Mars time right now, so we are operating on Mars time for the first 90 Sols of the mission. So we shift our times with the Mars day, which is 40 minutes longer than an Earth day. So every day we work 40 minutes shifted time. We have, after landing, we've deployed our mast and the high gain antenna. We've taken images, because when you get down to the surface, even though you have orbital data, you really need the detailed terrain data in 3D for us to actually navigate over it. We've done that imaging. Now, we are doing a flight software transition. So I also worked on some of the software and wrote software that runs on board Perseverance. We have software that does the entry, descent, and landing and cruise, but we also have software that is used on the surface robotics, and that we are uploading now. We actually changed the software after we land. So we're doing that. And then on Sunday, we'll be steering our wheels, we'll be doing our first drive and deploying the robotic arm. After that, we're going to go find a site to deploy a helicopter, because we have a helicopter, a Mars helicopter strapped under the rover. So actually, I had to switch out the meeting. It was happening in parallel to this to talk to you guys, because there was a helicopter site selection. We meet daily to look at the data that comes down to figure out, if there's an airfield, if it meets the criteria for the airfield. So that's what we're doing, and then we're going to continue on to our prime mission, which is to collect sample cores and cache them. We actually have a second robotic arm inside the rover. So the external arm corrects the sample, we transfer it, and there's an entire assembly on the inside that does volumetric assessment, imaging, and then seals the tubes. So we're going to do that around in the summer after the helicopter flights are over.
Ma'am, can you show us some images?
Say that again?
Ma'am, can you show us some images?
Oh, I can show you the images after that. I can share. I didn't have them set up here, but every single image we take eventually is on our public website. So that is one thing NASA does do, because we're a scientific exploration. In the beginning, because there was so much media interest in our landing, not all the pictures came out right away. But every single picture, for example, we took with Curiosity, which was also a mission I was part of, is publicly available. So you can see them all, just as much as well. I can send a link. I'd be happy to share with the school a link where you can see all the pictures.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Sudhan Arora, and my first question to you is, are there any memories that you would always cherish in your life?
Yes, it's interesting when those memories happen. Sometimes you have this premonition that there'll be something you remember, other times not. But especially, in the context you're in, Golden Jubilee, I have a lot of memories of being there. I actually remember the playground outside, music classes, the classroom that I was in that was right up front at the school. I don't know if it's changed or the structures have changed, and the assembly area. We used to do lots of, different celebrations. So I have a lot of fun memories of that.
What is a typical workday like for you, and what is the most fascinating thing about your job?
Can you repeat the first part of it? I missed that. The first part of your question.
What is a typical workday like for you, And what's the most fascinating thing about your job?
So, you know what's really great? I think one of the things I like about this job is there isn't a typical day. So there are different types of typical days because the mission changes so much during its lifetime. So, I'll typically work on a mission for I was driving Curiosity and operating Robotica while I started working on the design and development of Perseverance. You could be operating one rover and working on the design of the next. So when you're doing the design, you work with a lot of team of people. You have to propose your idea of how you think you'll solve. For example, I worked on algorithms that autonomously help us in image detect interesting rocks. So, you have to present your design, you work with a set of people, and there are obstacles and challenges. Because our computing is limited, you're limited by hardware, the fact that you're on Mars, certain things don't work the same way as Earth. And then there are days where you're working on your own. Actually, maybe I like to do the implementation where you're programming. You may be in meetings presenting the ideas. I also, as the chief engineer of robotic operations, thinking about the future. And I also have another role where we have projects like Perseverance and Curiosity, but we also have the organization like Robotics and NASA JPL. It thinks about across all missions and for the future. And there, I'm the assistant section manager of the robotics section. There, you're trying to mentor. So there might be a day where I'm mentoring more junior members about what we should do in the future, or reviewing them. And then now, like when we actually landed, there are days when, again, something came about saying, how are we going to do the first Mali selfie? We take the robotic arm and we take the images. And I will, sort of plan for the future as in my role as the chief engineer. But there are other roles where when we're doing the first drive, I'm actually going to be the rover driver on console, potentially. Of course, these things can change, the days can change. Actually planning the drive, be the last set of hands that actually looks into the details of it before it goes to Mars. And same for the helicopter and the helicopter integration engineer. So it really changes. We play many different roles, and it depends on the day what you're doing. There it can be more abstract, and it can be more detailed. You might be giving a talk to a committee to explain to them what you're doing. You may be reviewing somebody's work, or you may be actually driving on Mars.
Okay, ma'am, my question is that your major was robotics, if I'm not wrong. So, considering the stereotypes, did anybody try to demotivate you?
It's really interesting that people don't always think of particular, maybe people as stereotypical to go into a particular field. A lot of people robotics was a very nascent, upcoming field when I was doing it. I was more, a lot of, students who were younger guys in Mmrtg would be working with a lot of computers since they were like really little. But if you're interested in it, there's always a way to go about it, right? Like there's always, you show interest, and if you are able to find a way to do it, you can. So I think those things do still happen, but I didn't find them, didn't listen to those. There'll be just too many people who'll be cheering you on, and it's better to listen to those.
Who takes responsibility if a problem arises? And is there any sort of punishment also?
Right, no. So, that's one of the things about working with a team, right? When a problem arises, you have to create that culture if you're going to take bold risks. Because if people feel that they're going to be punished, they're not going to take risky steps or do. Of course, you don't want to take undue risks. So you very much have a culture where none of us want to be the one who killed the rover or drove it up a cliff or do anything like that, or had software that caused or resets where we couldn't communicate with it. We take that responsibility very seriously. Everybody checks and double checks. It's not about just getting it. You really feel responsible. Yet when something goes wrong, which is inevitably something in different scales will, instead of me blaming the person, we look like, how can we fix this so that this couldn't happen? No one person should be able to make a mistake that could take $1 billion spacecraft down. So you then look at what is it that we can do to change how can we get back on track? That tends to be the focus, and very rarely do we look at that individual, because that shouldn't have happened.
Ma'am, I'd like to know, we know as per the data, there is a difference of 100 kgs between curiosity and perseverance. Can you tell us what value does those 100 kgs add to Perseverance rover?
Yes, so that's a good insight to look at it both ways, So curiosity was just under a ton, and perseverance was over that. There are a lot of changes. Most of our mass, if you look at Sojourner, the entire rover, the first rover, weighed 10.6 kilograms. The SAM instrument, which is just one payload that the carrier Curiosity weighs much more than that. So it's science instruments that we can carry that really increase the weight, because they're doing so much. They're literally compressing an entire laboratory into this tiny package that has to fit on the end of a robotic arm. But you judiciously use that, because every gram to space matters in terms of functional fuel and how we do robotic origami to fit it all in. We've used the weight in few examples. There's lots of distributed all over. So our wheels are slightly thicker, because we were starting to have tears in the wheels in Curiosity, and we had to sort of detour around and find new terrain. So these wheels, and on the wheel there's treads, we call them grousers. On Curiosity they had a triangular chevron pattern. On Perseverance they have more like a curve. That prevents us still slipping but reduces those stress points. We also have a turret. So the turret on Curiosity is 30 kilograms. The one here is 45 kilograms. If you look at the size, I was actually just in another chain where we were trying to figure out how we get around the kinematic challenges posed by such a big turret, because when it's bigger, when you have a 5 degree of freedom of, there are certain joints that you can't reach the extension of. So it's big because we are carrying the Winslow, Sherlock, and Watson instruments on it, and they add mass. So there's a lot, and the entire sample caching assembly adds a whole new mass. The Curiosity, we process powderized sample with the drill and deliver it into instruments, which processed it and dumped it out. We now actually take solid cores. We have a coring drill. And then we're actually going to bring them back to Earth from a subsequent mission. That'll be the first time we brought something back. So that adds weight, because there's a lot to do with the adaptive caching assembly that does that sealing of tubes.
Thank you. What was your reaction on getting into Carnegie Mellon University?
I was very excited, because I actually in the beginning didn't think I wanted to do a PhD, because a lot of the things that I felt I needed for what I needed to do, I had learned on my own by different schools. So I was like, school is about actually doing the work rather than the educational program. But that program had a lot of learning the theory, but also a lot of robotics projects. At that time, we were collaborating with NASA on some projects. So I was very excited, because I knew this was an opportunity for me to be able to do my own work, which is what a graduate PhD program allows you to do. So I was very excited.
Ma'am, ISRO's recent programs like Mangalyaan have been quite successful even with a modest budget. Do you think ISRO has the potential to come at par with NASA in the upcoming years?
ISRO has done some really great work, and they have a lot of very talented people. And I think if there is the desire to continue to want to explore space and do that, I think it's going to do incredible things. There's a lot of talent, and there's a lot of interesting projects they're drawing on. So I'm really very excited about that. We actually have collaboration with them. We don't know if it's directly with ISRO, but we do work with India and must be with. We have NISAR, a project that collaborates with ISRO as well, and we work closely with them.
According to NASA, Perseverance will seek signs of Asian lives in Mars. So can you please elaborate the word Asian lives here?
Right, so we've been following this story with our rovers. The Spirit and Opportunity rovers, we found water, which is one of the ingredients we need for life. With Curiosity, we were looking for habitability. With Perseverance, we are now carrying instruments that are capable, both in situ and by bringing the samples back, of detecting whether there and studied, but it's also potentially may have been there and no longer exists. So we're looking for the signatures of that life. And Mars is a great place because Earth has a lot of weathering effects and tectonic effects that remove some of these signatures. And if we find that, we might also be looking at the history of the origin of life on Earth because they're harder to find those signs here. Right? So that's sort of looking for life that existed in the past that may not, but can prove that it was there.
Mom, the satellites or the probes that you launch, are they in mission forever? Or you declare the mission complete and just leave the probe maybe as a toy for the aliens?
So you know, it's interesting that it depends on the mission. The rovers, they typically had so much value from the science they're returning. The Spirit and Opportunity was a 90-day mission that lasted 14 years. Opportunity did. For the orbiters, there's a lot of data that they're returning. Odyssey has been around Mars for a long time. So right now, you know, when I'm in operations, actually we'll have more data tonight. We get it from Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, Mars Express, Mars Odyssey, and we let the orbiters keep going. But sometimes there's a risk because you don't want to contaminate surfaces where you think that they might be alive with you know, artificial. We have a lot of planetary protection rules and plans that are global, that the whole world follows. Things like Cassini, when it was done with a mission, we actually did a controlled crash into Jupiter, and part of it is that, you know, you want to have you want to have the controlled trajectories where you can. So there are times when we do that because we would like to control where they go, and other times that we just keep let them going until they can return data.
Ma'am, Chandrayaan-2 being one of ISRO's great missions unfortunately failed. What points did the engineers and scientists of NASA used as SOP for Perseverance?
You mean from that mission? So, you know, I haven't looked at, because as you get into these missions, you realize that there is a cascading effect of things. Sometimes there can be one particular thing that is the last thing that you notice, which is actually causing the failure, but that might not be the root cause. So you have to be part of the review board or have looked at the details in order to communicate definitively what happened. So I personally wasn't involved with looking as much at the Chandrayaan failure, so I wouldn't, hazard a guess. But at the same time, we do look at all of those because there are so few missions, and when they do happen, there are lessons learned from that. Not as much an operative person, so I personally didn't, but I expect NASA and ISRO work together on that, so that both in the future, ISRO might not have that failure. Anybody might not have the failure. That's the most mandatory one to have.
Thank you, ma'am.
What do you think is the key feature that the Indian education system lacks in producing more geniuses like you?
I don't know if I would call myself a genius, but I think that actually the Indian education system is really good. I think one of the things is actually India as a culture values education, which is really important because Indian students actually do really well, and it's because of that to a large extent. The things that we could do that I experienced more when I came to the US, but maybe it was because I was in graduate school, so it's a different stage of education, is iterating that learning. It's really important to have the fundamentals, but applying that to problems, because in doing that, you realize what part you understand it better, but you also realize what new parts you need to explore and innovate. I think that's a part where we could do more.
Ma'am, if you weren't already in NASA, what would your dream job be?
That's a great question. You know, as soon as I was doing robotics, there's so many incredible things. So sometimes, I of course feel like I have the best job in the world, but there are times when I thought that would be a bush pilot. Like I love the flying. You know, obviously, my father was in the Indian Air Force. I grew around airplanes, and I have a pilot's license now. But that was a time where I thought, I don't know if that would actually have happened, but who knows?
Ma'am, who is that one person who always motivated you throughout your life and still motivates you to continue?
I think there are, it's hard to come across just one person. My family certainly motivated me, but a lot of the teachers and peers you have, friends, and also the teachers you have along the way have motivated me. So been very fortunate to have a number of people who were supportive at different stages for doing what I was interested in.
What do we know about alien existence till now, and what proofs do we have?
We haven't found signs of life in the universe yet. But when you look at the mathematics of it, the probability is high that Earth isn't the only planet with life. And we found exoplanets now. There was just a few, but now we have so many exoplanets where when you look at the characteristics, they're very unlikely that some of them do have life. They're just a lot further for us to explore. In terms of what policies we have, there is these planetary protection policies, and how when we interact with another planet, how we don't, change life or take our own life and put it there, and vice versa, don't bring something that would harm humans. So there are these protocols we have. In addition, all our spacecraft, we put puzzles which help if they were there in life, intelligent life, be able to mathematically, regardless of whether they spoke any language on Earth, to know what life on Earth is. In addition to just sounds and music, we also have on our spacecraft, and you can find them, if you understood mathematics, because we believe that mathematics is somewhat universal, that they would be able to know where they are from. It points to Earth. Now some may say, wow, are we telling them where Earth is? But this is assuming it has good intentions.
Ma'am, why is NASA using Mmrtg as a power source?
So one of the reasons, Sojourner, Spirit and Opportunity was solar powered. Curiosity is just like you said, so large. The size that the rover is, the solar panels would have had to be humongous. And managing those solar panels. So with Opportunity, which I remember, I worked on it for so many years, you go through a Martian winter. So Mars here is 2 Earth years. And so we would have to park the rover on a slope so that the solar panels, as the sun is going down in the Martian winter, can still charge. We need more power for carrying so much weight and for generating that we would have had to have a very complicated mechanism to unfold them and to charge them. The Mmrtg is a really, really weak source, like a light bulb. That's the amount of energy we're on. So we actually charge batteries, and that's how we drive, because the charge generated just directly is insufficient to do that. But it allows us to do things, also allows the rovers to not worry about dust. The reason the mission for Opportunity and Spirit was 9 days was because we expected the solar panels to get dust covered. And they did. But what we didn't anticipate, which was great fortune, was that we got dust storms on Mars that cleared away the dust. And so we would get this renewed life. So that's why the Mmrtgs are useful. Now the Mars helicopter, it's charging right now from the rover, but as soon as we deploy it, it's actually solar powered. It also has 6 batteries which will charge with the solar power and then fly with them, because the solar panel isn't large enough for it to fly just from that.
Ma'am, do you have any plans of visiting our school in the near future?
Yeah, I hope to, actually, go to the alumni organization in part that has been organizing these things. I do hope to come because of the pandemic. It's, harder to do, but I definitely will be visiting at some point in the future, and I'd love to visit.
Out of the many highlights of your career, which one would you consider as a paradigm shift?
You know, I think there was work that we did with Curiosity. Both rovers, you can do paradigm shifts in different areas at different times. With Curiosity, I worked on the simulation software because it was so complicated that people can't keep in their head. We have 54,000 parameters and thousands and thousands of arguments to command. You can't keep track of how the vehicles will react to that configuration. So I had developed a simulation that they still use every day to control the rover, and that was very. It really changed the way we do operations. It allowed us to do things more optimally and also more precisely. And now it's being used in Perseverance in the whole mission. Also here we're doing intelligence on board, where the rover itself is making decisions without us in the loop. So those are a few of the things where I feel that's been a big paradigm shift.
Ma'am, what were the subjects you had in college?
Depending on the different stages, I had a lot of different subjects. So, in my bachelor's, I did more electrical engineering. We would have everything from math to, physics and various electronics, but it sort of covered a wide variety of subjects. And then when I did my master's, I have one in computer science. We did a lot of theoretical aspects, but also the applied aspects and artificial intelligence. And then in robotics, you do a lot of still for perception. There's perception, which involves computer vision. There's other techniques. You have mechatronics. You have controls. There is again a lot of artificial intelligence, machine learning. I did a lot of machine learning. I actually taught the class at Carnegie Mellon 2TA we would have for machine learning. So those were a lot of the areas, but there's a lot of specialized things that come into the picture, automated planning and other areas.
Ma'am, in your view, the knowledge we have till now is what fraction of the unknown, and what do you think we will be able to achieve in the upcoming future?
It's difficult to guess what we would know in the future, but the one thing we do know, right, just thinking about how much more information students who go through schooling now have to absorb than students in the past, because their information in the world is just increasing. It might become history if it's the past or the future. So we're just seeing a little bit of it, and the potential in the future, just if I look at my own lifetime, on what's possible now. How many of us thought we'd be running around with a computer in our hands that was capable of more than a supercomputer in the past, in a room. So I think there's just a lot of potential in the future, and I'm really excited about what are all of you going to do in terms of the missions in the future we do. There's just so many possibilities.
Ma'am, what are change in laws of physics on Mars? What capabilities have been added to Ingenuity helicopter to counter this change?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things we have to think about that are different, right? You look at the pictures, it looks a lot like Earth, but it's not. The air is 1% that of Earth. So flying a helicopter on Mars is like flying at 100,000 feet on Earth. Nothing has flown that high other than, this SR-71, which is not a helicopter, has gone to 80,000, and a helicopter has flown up to 40,000 here. So one, you have to now fly higher than anything else. How do you do that? You have to spin your rotors really fast. You don't want them to go supersonic, because if they go supersonic, you have all kinds of other problems with dynamics. So they go at about 0.75 Mach. And they also have twin rotors that actually counter-rotate. And we do that through computation and software, so we compensate. So when we're commanding something, we command it higher because we know it's going to droop lower. So there's a lot of these factors that come into play.
How did your family support you in your endeavors?
Yeah, so in different ways, everybody has different ways. My mom was very protective. My father was always like, would rather stay home, and I would say. And I think I think there's a lot you can do by just loving your children and being there for them, whatever they really want to do, instead of opposing focusing on them. I try to do that with my own children, but they're very little right now. So, just exposing them to all the things that they can learn from, and then letting them learn from that, but exposing. And I think both girls and boys, we should expose them equally to all of the things and not make assumptions about what their interests might be of one or the other.
Ma'am, every classroom has a diversity of students, like the teacher's assistant, the backbenchers, the chatterboxes, the comedian, the fashionista. What kind of student were you?
At different stages of my life, I was probably all kinds of different things. I was certainly at certain stages the one who caused a lot of mischief, and I was also one who studied a lot because I was really interested in the subject. So, it varied depending on the time. And you'll have to ask my teachers. They may have a different opinion than I do. But it's really nice talking to all of you. These are great questions, and it's been really great.
Please tell us any one memorable incident from your college life.
I think one of the really fun memories I had was we took our robot. This was the robot where I was applying some of my thesis work, and we were going to test it in the Atacama Desert in Chile. So we all went there with the robot. It was just a small team of people. And the scientists were at NASA Ames, and they were controlling the robot. And it was an ancient sea that evaporated, were very salty. They were like these popcorn-like formations. And that was really a memorable memory. We were in the southern hemisphere, and all the stars in the sky was like upside down. And it was really neat. And you're staying in tents and you're operating this robot out there. So that was very memorable, because you're really getting the experience of what it would be like to put your robot in the field, but you're there so you can actually see it. When we are on Mars, we only see the eyes of the rover. So that was very memorable.
Ma'am, we know you have a very busy schedule. So ma'am, how much more time are you with us?
Yeah, so I have to switch out in a few minutes. I'm a little bit late for going back to that meeting I was in and trying to catch it. But if you had, maybe one other question, I'd be happy to answer it. It was so good to see all the classes and teachers.
Thank you.
Ma'am, now we have a set of rapid fire questions for you, which you have to answer in a word or a phrase.
I will try.
Your dream destination.
You said rapid fire, so I'll say Mars.
Your favorite pastime.
Backpacking.
Your ideal.
I don't know, nature.
Favorite planet.
Favorite planet? That's a difficult one. I think Saturn is beautiful.
Favorite book.
There are many. I'll have to, it's hard to pick one book today. I really like, there was a time I really liked the Manual of the Kamau, like the stories about that were very, very beautiful, I thought. But I wouldn't say it was my favorite book, but it's one of the books I remember.
Favorite food.
Breakfast.
Favorite word. Your favorite word.
It's possible.
Your preference, a balanced life or a monotonous one?
You mean a balanced or monotonous? A balance. Or just, doing something unique.
Your hidden talent.
I'm very. I can run faster than I thought.
Meaning of success for you.
Being able to do what you love.
Your fear.
spiders.
Favorite song?
There are lots of songs. I actually just recently was listening to some of them. It's hard to pick a particular, but I like that song "Aane Wala Pal Jaane Wala Hai" because it has this thing about every moment is precious. I like that one.
Favorite color?
Blue.
Greatest strength?
I'm innovative and flexible.
Biggest weakness?
I'm very enthusiastic about things.
Okay, so what is your message to the students of AFGJ?
I think you're in a really great school, which at least when I was there provides you a great atmosphere to try and find your potential, and it's a really great time to explore the things that you're interested in doing, to find things that you're passionate about, and to pursue them, to explore them in conjunction with the great teachers you have, which is just a great opportunity to do that. And so pursuing your passion, with the support you have.
Ma'am, we are well aware of the fact Mars has weak gravitational pull. Even if we use MOXIE to produce oxygen on Mars, will we be able to bind that with Mars' atmosphere for a long span?
So right now, that isn't what it's doing. It's doing a very small technology experiment. But over time, we would certainly have to advance the technology. So we're looking more to have, say, a vehicle that when astronauts come, we generate oxygen such that it's already there waiting for them, rather than it just be, in the atmosphere, but it be in an enclosure, so that it would be, a breathable air for them, and also for fuel. So that's currently what we're looking at.
Before we close, can we have a group photograph?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you want me to shift or anything that makes it easier.
No, you be there, we will shift. Just give us a couple of minutes. Just turn around.
You must come to Golden Jubilee.
I think she's locked down.
What fond memories